So, Harapan, thank you for joining us, and welcome to Beyond the Method. I'm very happy to have you here.
I'm very, very happy to be here with you, Rico. I'm very honored to be on your podcast and can't wait to get into the conversation and see what we'll be discussing today.
It's fun, man. Like, cause we started talking like earlier, right? Like when I was still doing invisible practice, and we had the magazine, and you wrote this beautiful article about like how the kata influences magic, or sort of like the kata of magic.
Yeah.
And for me, like that really related back to like when I was younger, I used to train martial arts. I also said this in the podcast with Avi, but like the white belts and the black belt would always start with the same thing. And I really felt that in the article also in some way as well. Like, okay, we're at one point always doing the same thing, then we get to the katas, and we're now applying all those things, and then we're splitting up. Right. But you're
Hmm.
always like try to keep using those basics and those particular things that we learned in order to make things smoother, better, more into your muscle memory.
Hmm.
So
Yeah.
how like other than just like it being a ritual and the basics, do you think the kata applies to magic?
Yeah. The way I see it, from what I recall in my article, if I remember what I wrote, um, I think this idea was inspired from my realization that, like I said, I don't perform a lot of the things I create.
Mm,
And that felt kind of weird because I would create all these things, I would publish all these things, and people sometimes might ask me, "So Harapan, you published this thing in Brinkipia, congrats." I say, "Yeah." And they say, "Oh, how do you usually perform this, or what happens if some spectator, how do you clean up, or how what this spectator does this thing and that?" And I may not have the answers to a lot of them because I don't perform many of them, right? And I started to feel maybe a little bit guilty that I was not walking the walk. Because I would publish these things, and
mm,
people might assume that, well, if you publish it means it's been in your repertoire for decades. You've been doing it 10,000 times. That's why you publish it. But in fact, a lot of the things I don't actually perform, and partly it's because I'm not a professional. I don't perform that often. I'm more of a creative guy in the background. I like to
mm,
invent new ideas and new methods and new tricks and new plots and so on. But then the way I've reconciled that guilt with, and what I've realized is that I think, I don't know if it's a controversial hot take, that many of the things we come up with in magic are not meant to be performed.
mm,
Is that controversial? I don't know. I think there are a lot of, even some of the classics that you can think of, just many tricks that we come up, are not necessarily meant to be done in real world performances. They're meant to be studied. They're meant for
mm,
you to practice and to hone the basics so that when you're out there with real people who may react differently, who may have different ways of interpreting or different ways of appreciating magic, uh, you can always you are able to pull out whatever you need.
mm,
So my analogy was, many martial artists practice their katas, um, here, this way, this way, this way.
mm,
And the critics of the kata will say, well, that's not real world sparring,
mm,
right? I'm not a martial artist guy, but I just have read these kind of criticisms that, well, this won't work in the real world. Like, no one's punching this way. And how do you know you're going
mm,
to block this way? You're going to get punched, and then you're going to like lose. The plan in your head goes out the window and you're not really doing it.
mm,
So it's not real. So sparring is the only thing that matters,
mm,
right? But then where is the value of kata to me? Like I said, is actually more in the honing. You're not actually going to block this way. You're not going to punch. It has to be like this way, but these set certain standards so that when in the real world, when you are actually in a fight for whatever reason, um, your muscle memory is supposed to kick in, and you know how to best deliver maximum force on when you punch, the
mm,
maximum angle so you don't hurt yourself, so on and so forth. Can these things be learned through sparring? I guess you can. Maybe you get more damage initially, probably, right? But I think definitely a good magician would have a mix of both, a mix of both kata
mm,
and a mix of sparring. From what I understand, there are some martial artists who spend their whole life just working on kata. They've
mm,
never been, and I hope they never get into a real world fight for whatever reason. But and I think that many magicians spend their whole life doing kata as well, right?
mm,
And there's something wrong. Does that mean they're not good magicians? Do you not call them magicians? And I don't know. I think it's still martial arts. It's still magic. It's still
mm, mm,
they're still practitioners of this art, but they may not have, even though they may not have this sort of real world sparring experience. But as long as you recognize, hey, you're just doing kata, and kata is valuable. It's not something that you have to be guilty about. And that's how I reconciled it. A lot of things I do are kata. Kata is beautiful to look at. Kata is still valuable in many ways. And I think even when I practice kata, like I was just telling you before this podcast, I was just doing a real world performance last night at the theater. I think I did pretty well. Of course there are things I can improve on, but I think I'm still able to do some real world performance, even though most of the time I'm doing kata.
It's I think what you're saying is an important thing also. Like in some way, like when we are doing that kata, right? Like we're building like the connections in our brain that's like, oh, this technique can do that, but also it could be into that. And then when you realize like what makes that deceptive and how you can go through it, like I do perform quite a lot. And I also notice sometimes I get into a scenario where like someone challenges me or something goes wrong. And like if I would have to think of that beforehand, or someone would put a deck in my hand to go do it, I would be like, man, how the fuck how do I even get close to this? But then when you're in that scenario and you just sort of have to do it, it's just there like I just come up with some things like which I can because I did so much kata that you get to a point where you're like, oh, that's it,
Yes. The idea of having done so much kata that you are able to respond and improvise on the spot is literally embodied in the spirit of things like the trick that cannot be explained, which is my favorite card trick. If you read my book, that's the trick I recommend every magician to try and do, because it's the embodiment of improvisation, right? The whole trick is improvisation. And even last night during my show, there's one segment where I had to essentially force a card for a bigger revelation. I could have just done slip cut, say stop. I could have just done that, but I purposely just made it a little bit more fooling by suddenly, taking out my deck and just did a bit of improv to make sure they get to the card I need to force. Right? Yeah.
Can I imagine also make it more fun for you, right?
Yeah, I think so too.
Even just when you're practicing, you sort of get to a point, I believe, where you start to realize how things fit together, right? And like a good example of this is like the Amsli count. We usually use it to hide a card or to do something. But then I saw Gabi do it in order to do like the Dr. Data's last trick. And he starts by showing 2 black aces, 2 red ones, puts them together, and you do an Amsli and you're in the setup position for the last trick.
Right.
And I think that's a very elegant way, rather than like trying to switch out the middle cards or like trying to sandwich one card in between the others. Just show them, you do an Amsli and you turn over 1, because like I guess the feeling of the Amsli in that sense is like you're mixing the cards and you're showing, it's a black one, and then you do the other thing, another black one, and then they change.
Yep. I remember. I mean, I love packet tricks. So it's almost like if you know your false counts, they can do quite a lot of things. And nowadays I'm trying to think about like breaking moves down into their fundamental properties. What I mean by that, like for example, what does the Elmsley count effectively do? Like what? Okay, you can say, oh, it's to hide a card, hide a card in the third position, which is kind of common. I mean, bringing my camera down a little bit. It's obviously to hide a card in the third position.
Yeah.
This, boom, boom, boom. But if you look at the count, effectively what it's doing is actually all it does actually is to move the last card to the second position.
Okay.
That's all it does. The net result of an Elmsley count, if you look at it, let me do it openly. Elmsley count is 1. You push these 2 together, 2, and then this is the last top card comes back to the top. So the net result, the only thing it does really is to move the 4th card to the second, for example. So this starts to make you think like, okay, then nothing else is touched. On top of third card, you are also always sort of moving the last card to the second position, which is why quite a number of twisting routines and things like that have this kind of process, right? Like for example, you have like 4 aces and 2 cards. Every time I twist, you bring that ace to the second position. You say, oh, that's 1. That's 1 ace. And then now you want to bring the next ace to the...
so you can keep cycling through the things, right?
Yeah, suddenly you realize it's some sort of cycle, which also means the top card never changes. But by understanding the fundamental structure of these moves, right? What does the Jordan count actually do? You analyze, you say, oh, it turns out it does nothing except just that. So now you know what remains hidden, what remains always seen, what is being repeated, and things like that. You can actually start imagining these packet tricks and how they work in your head without even touching the deck of cards.
Yeah.
Because you know exactly what You can imagine the whole thing in your head without having to try it
Whoa.
out.
I love that. That's whoa. Okay. Yeah, no, that's amazing because I think very often in packet tricks, like at least for me, like it's getting less and less, but especially in the beginning, it was just like, okay, I don't like this, I want a different result. And then it was just me playing with different counts until I got that result.
Yeah. Some of the more
Whereas-
complex things, I still have to do that. But for the simpler
Mhm.
things, yeah. I don't know if I mentioned this before. Maybe in my future books, I will talk about this. One of my goals I had for myself in Magic when I was young, and now actually, even till now, was I've always wanted to be able to create tricks
Mhm.
without touching a deck of cards. Like, I want to be someone who is able to just like sit there and think of a very complex trick from start to finish.
Mhm.
And then I can, when I try it out, it instantly works. Like, be able to have that kind of visual
Oh, fuck yeah.
visualization,
Okay, yeah.
visualization ability, which is why I want to train myself on these sort of small things. And in some small ways, I've only managed to succeed in some small ways, certain packet tricks, certain things. I'm able to go, I just lie on the bed at night, like thinking about it, no cards in hand, just think, like, oh shit, wait. Then I wake up and I try it out, and it works. And I go like, it works. But for the more complex things, if you give me something very complex, I still have to probably try it out on my own.
Wasn't that like Thomas Edison or something who used to be able to do that? Or what they say, like just be able to imagine like the whole machinery and then like just in his head, like just visualize it and then eventually make it.
Well, if you're on the internet long enough, I think most people will know that. You know, I don't know if it's Thomas Edison. Isn't the current consensus that Thomas Edison is a despicable capitalist who exploited who exploited Nikola Tesla, and Tesla's the real genius, and it's probably Tesla who has the ability to visualize. I don't know. If you're on Reddit long enough, that is the narrative you would buy into. I have no idea. I know which magician is able to do that. The legend is that Stuart James, I don't know if you know Stuart James,
of course, yeah,
from Canada, is able to do that. So there's this. The legend is that he's created so many tricks. If you've seen his books are like each book. Yeah, correct. Yeah,
the James Files is like what?
The James Files 1 and 2, and the Stuart James in print and so on. The legend is that he lives alone in his house with his mom and has no social life basically, and that he would write letters to his friends. Like, oh, I just came up with this thing. And if you've seen any of Stuart James' tricks, a lot of them are very little sleight of hand, and a lot of card tricks are very stack dependent. So they're like huge stack and so on. So the legend is that one day his friends go to visit him in his house. And the friends go like, oh no, Stuart, I remember last month or 2 months ago, whatever, you wrote this trick up in the letter. Can I see you perform it? Right? And the steward is like, yeah, sure. Can I borrow a deck of cards from someone? I can show it. And then his friends go, oh, you don't have a deck of cards at home? And the steward's like, yeah, no, I've not had a deck of cards for years. Like, I just don't have any cards at home. So all his tricks that he's been writing about is just theoretically as he writes it, and he knows it works because he can imagine the entire stack. And if you've seen his stack work, his crazy stuff is like, one stack can do 10 tricks in a row. Once you do the first trick, you collect it up and it prepares you for the second trick, which is some spelling trick. And then you gather it up and it's now a 10-card poker deal. It's a 10-hand poker deal or something like that. And then it's a poker deal and now it's a mentalism thing where the cards match. Okay, so he knows how to collect the cards up to set up for the next thing and so on, and all done without actually trying it out. So that always inspired me, and I wanted to try that. I don't know how to get there, but I'm just, like I said, understanding the every move's property and so on, I think helps me to do that. Yeah.
It's wild, dude. Like being able to just like going in your head through a trick and then just reaching a point where you go like, nope, that doesn't work. How do we do it? Oh yeah, like this, I just keep progressing until you go, like the ability to be able to say, no, that doesn't work. That's like crazy.
Yeah.
I feel like usually for me, it's like you go to a trick and you're like, oh, this will work. And then you're at one point, you're going, nope. Okay.
And I think that while there are some people who are maybe naturally gifted at these sort of intuition of knowing what works and what doesn't work, I actually think for those who are listening and you're interested to follow the same goal as I do, the same goal as I have, is I think there's nothing more than just what we're talking about, the kata. Like the more you practice magic, the more you keep trying at doing that, the better you get at it. I know there might be some gifted young kid who's able to do it or whatever, maybe like a Stuart James. By the way, there's nothing to be so envious about Stuart James. Stuart James has, I think in modern terms, he would have a lot of mental health issues. He has a lot of like, he would talk about his imaginary friends that he talks to, and then when they leave him, he cries and stuff. So I'm not sure he's the most envious person to be the most envious of, to be honest. But if you want to approach his level of ingenuity and his level of intuition, I think there's nothing more than just a lot of practice. My analogy to that is that when I was younger and I was trying to do more physics, for those who don't know, I'm a physics teacher, and I did my physics degrees and so on. It's the same thing in physics. There's some people I don't understand how, when I was a teenager, my friends who were really good at physics, they would see a problem and then immediately know the solution. Like, oh, isn't that like, you do like a conservation of angular momentum thing, and it's probably like a 3/2, maybe? Like, how do they know the answer? Like, they already know the correct solution, whereas I actually have to like think and draw a diagram and like, well, the forces act this way, and they already kind of know like, oh yeah, well, no, it's not going to work because it's obviously spinning, right? So if it's spinning, then the angular momentum is pointing that way. And yeah, it's probably like a pi/2 or something. And I'm like, what? How do you get that level of physical intuition to know the answer to a problem before you even do any working? And I mean, I eventually went up to do a physics degree and all that, wondering how, and I never felt like I got any physical, even till today, I never felt like I got any physical, sort of physics intuition until now when I'm a teacher. And then when I come back to school and I talk to my students about things, my students will ask me, how are you so quick to solve the thing? But that's because I've done so much, but I don't realize I have leveled up. Maybe I'm not on the same level as a Nobel-winning physicist, but I've leveled up so much that now a teenage me or a teenage student of mine think of me as some sort of genius. Then they think like I have a huge level of intuition. They, no, Mr. Ong, they call me Mr. Ong, that's my surname. Like, Mr. Ong, I saw this problem in the book. I don't understand how to do it. I read it. I'm like, well, yeah, so you just put in that equation and yeah. Huh? I will never think of that. How did you? I don't understand how I could immediately see, but that's because I've done so many problems. Yeah, I've done so many problems that they don't understand. So I think if you want to achieve that kind of intuition, whether it's in physics or in our topic here, magic, there is nothing that can beat just a lot of reading, a lot of learning, a lot of thinking, and you'll get there. And in a few years' time, you'll be better than you are now. You will not feel it, but when you compare it to someone else, suddenly you'll just be better, and then you'll be seen as a person with intuition. Yeah.
Do you think that teaching helped you also to reach that level?
Reach the level of intuition?
Yeah. Like, because I feel at least like when I'm teaching my students, like I understand certain moves better or certain things better because now I'm like, oh, I guess that finger is applying that pressure, or did you do this before that reason?
Yeah. You teach when you learn when you teach. That's 100% true. You learn when you teach. That's so important. I think when a good teacher is someone who understands the material they're teaching from a very fundamental perspective. I think the reason is because a good teacher, and one of the most important qualities of a teacher is empathy. What I mean by that is empathy, not in the sense of like, oh, my student is depressed, let me help him or her. I meant just from a pedagogical point of view, like from a teaching point of view, a good teacher must understand why your student doesn't get it. You must be able to bring yourself down to that level. Understand, like, dude, why can't you get that, the net force is 0 on this object? Or why can't you understand that a push off is just pushing off 2 carbs? Like, why is it when you do it, it's like that? Right? Why can't you get that? And that's also why the best physicists don't always make the best physics teachers. And the best magicians don't make the best magic teachers. Because the better you go, if you've never learned to teach, you lack that level of empathy for understanding why they don't get it. I without naming names, I used to have a colleague in school who was very, very good at physics. Right. So this colleague was way better than I am. Way, way, way better than I am. But if I were to be very honest, he has this way of communicating with his students that shows that he doesn't quite empathize with the students. Or why? So, for example, if a student goes, "Hi, Mr. So and so, let's say Mr. Rico, let's say pretend his name is Rico.
Mm,
Hi,
mm,
Mr. Rico. I don't understand why why does the rocket fly up? Why does the rocket go up even though the force is downwards? Why does it go up? Oh, it's simple, isn't it? Isn't it just the momentum? It's like just the momentum of the rocket like going up, right? It's just the conservation, isn't it? Like he has this way of duh,
oh,
isn't it obvious? Can't you get it?
mm,
Because in his mind, it's it's like 1 + 1.
It's
But
the most
actually, you need to break it down. You have to think like, okay, so Newton's law says that an object, remember
mm,
what does it say? It's always going to continue its state of motion. So even though it's a force pulling it, the velocity doesn't just suddenly change. It's just slowing down. It's going
mm,
up, but it's being pulled up. It's slowing down, but it's still going up, right?
mm, mm,
Something like that. But his mind is just like, oh, it's just the momentum of the rocket, isn't it? It's the way you
mm,
it's the level of empathy that I think some teachers lack. And I think some magicians lack it as well. So you can see when they teach, when they give a lecture, it's
mm,
very who actually knows what they're who not say who knows what they're doing. The best people obviously know what they're doing, but do they know how to transmit that
mm,
to someone who completely does not know what you're talking about and bring them
mm,
up to your level? That's
mm.
actually a very different skill. So the best magicians don't always make the best teachers. Yeah.
I think you're right. Like the empathy there is very important. That you are not just trying to understand, like with the physics example, like, hey, they're like, oh, of course it works like this, but it's like, okay, why is this person thinking that it wouldn't
Mm.
work or that it would
Yeah.
work differently? And then once you
Yes.
know that, then you can
Yes.
go, oh, you might think it's like this, but
Yeah.
actually that's
Yeah.
part of it. But this is the bigger picture.
Yeah. One of the most useful things for anyone who's out there trying to teach magic, for example, it's simple. Something I learned from my teaching. I mean, this is my 9th year teaching. Thank you
Mm,
so much. As a teacher, I'm not saying that I'm super experienced. I'm still learning many things every day. But one thing I've learned, let's say when I'm teaching physics, is when a student goes, Mr. Ong, can you help me with this problem? I don't know how to do it. My first thing is not to say, okay, let me show you. Okay, so look at this problem. Okay, so the first thing you want to do is write this equation, right? So F equals ma, so it's 10 minus x equals to blah, 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 blah. And I, I don't think it's always the right thing to
mm,
immediately
mm,
jump into it, right? Instead, I always ask them first, okay, you've read the problem, right? Yes. Have you tried it for yourself? Like, how far did you go? Is it completely blank?
mm,
You have some thinking behind it, but you are stuck somewhere. And
mm,
usually that answer, if they say no, no clue, I don't even know what's going on. Okay, then I'll start from scratch and
mm,
more of a
mm,
giving. But if they're more like, yeah, I usually the answer will be something like, yeah, I thought of like it should be 10 minus x, which is already correct. It's like, oh, it should be 10 minus x, but I don't know if it's like equals to 5 plus y or is it 5 minus y, for example.
mm,
Then you know, aha, that's the problem. So actually, I don't have to jump in with all my knowledge. Just say, okay, so why do you think it's 5 plus y or 5 minus y? So, oh, well, I don't know if the friction is like acting
mm,
up or it's acting down the slope. Because the object's like sliding, and then now you know that's the problem when you talk about friction, for example.
mm, mm,
So by getting them to tell you what they know or what they think they know, then you can apply the solution
yeah.
directly to their
Mm,
problem. And with magic, it's exactly the same thing. The most common thing I get is a Harapan. Oh, I heard you're like good at the call. Can you show me your call? Like I want to learn the call. And I could just go in and say, okay, so here's my call. Okay, so so look at this. Okay, so you put your finger like that. Okay, and then you push it, and I just go into a full tutorial, just like it's like
mm,
watching a master class on the call, right?
mm,
But the most important thing is I usually ask is, you want to learn the call? Cool. Can you do the call already?
mm,
Yeah, I can do like a bit of it. Can you show me? I want to see him or her do the call first.
mm,
Let me see what your call is. And I watch, and then usually they'll be they'll be like, oh, it's not very good. I've hardly practiced. They always have to preface it. Oh, it's not very good. I've just been practicing it. And then they'll start muttering what their problem is. They'll say things like,
mm,
oh, I've been like here, but it's not smooth, and I don't know which finger to pull. But you can see it's like,
mm,
and then I'm doing, and I go like, aha, okay. So clearly, like maybe this person already knows something, but not that thing,
mm,
right? So
mm,
I know what to give, like what medicine to give him or her,
mm.
right? To give them. So I think, yeah. So getting them to tell me what their problem is before I give them the solution is It's a simple way to have that kind of empathy rather than just blah 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 blah. It's a two-way thing. They tell me something, I give them something, and that cycle begins.
Yeah, I think like maybe if you give too much, like if you just go blah 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 blah, like they lose interest and like even focus because it's too much information for them, and they go either I already know this or like I don't even know where to begin with this. Like how do you even know you should do that? Like where does this come from? You know?
I used to have that.
Yeah.
I used to have that problem in physics when I was young. When I was a younger teacher, I would just jump, Mr. Ong, how do you do this question? Okay, so this question, and I'll just blah 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 blah. So, It's y x. The student goes, but I don't understand. Wait, why does the object fall? Or it's something that was like way at the start that I thought was a fundamental thing. And honestly, if I had just tackled that problem, actually the student had no problem with any of the work. He or she just didn't understand that thing at the start. That because the student did not know how to phrase their question, they only know how to ask, I don't know how to do this question. I don't know how, can you help me? I don't know how to do. But you need to be able to probe a bit deeper and ask, like, what is the source of the problem? What is the source of your, why are you stuck on this thing? And if you ask them like, okay, so do you understand it? And it says, oh yeah, but I understand why it falls. And now this when I say, oh, it doesn't fall because of the friction, blah, blah, blah. I go, oh yeah, okay, then I get it. Okay, yeah, then you skip it. What they actually know, yeah, like the rest I know. It's just that bit I don't get. So.
I think it's also something we don't really learn, right? Like how to ask proper questions.
I think being able to ask proper questions comes from being able to, someone who has already thought a lot about what they're doing is, but it's no one's fault. Asking questions is a tough thing.
So do you think that it like requires a certain amount of mastery in order to ask a good question?
Yeah, I think so. I think being able to ask a good question shows that you actually know some things. I'm going to tell a story now. I'm sorry if I'm talking a lot. I'm talking a lot.
You won't. Like that's literally what I want. Just for you to talk.
Yeah, and I'm going to tell a story now that sounds like I'm bragging, but maybe in a way I am a little bit. But in university, when I was studying for my physics degrees, I was one of the nerds who would I would be sitting. I attended every lecture. Thank you so much. Full attendance. I'm always in the front row. And in my university, the lecture theater I went to, I usually found myself in the physics lecture theater. It's like there's a block of seats, like from the top block in the lecture theater. Then there's a corridor, like a little aisle for people to walk in from the door. And then in front of the aisle, there is a row of seats, usually left for like the VIPs. Let's say if there's a physicist talking, maybe the principal, the university head is sitting there, maybe the head of department is sitting there, and so on. But of course, during a normal physics lecture, there are no VIPs. So no sane student would go and sit in that front row right in front of the lecturer. But me and my nerd friends, we would all be sitting in that very front row taking notes. And despite that, I think I was someone who actually like, I don't think of myself as being very good at physics, even back then and even until now. I'm not particularly a genius in physics. I'm just someone who, I like it a lot. I love physics a lot. That's why I'm still a teacher all these years. And I like to talk about physics. That's why I'm a teacher. I'm not so much a researcher. I just like to communicate science, right? Like a Carl Sagan or a Neil deGrasse Tyson kind of guy. I just like to talk about and inspire people about science. So even in university, I always felt like I was a little bit self-conscious. Like, oh man, I mean, I'm not that good. I need to work even harder to make sure my physics is good. So in lectures, I would always be asking questions because I don't get it. I'll be like, sorry, Professor Bowler, could you repeat that again? I don't quite. Why is the damping constant like larger than 5 over here? I don't quite get. Why must it be larger than omega? Sorry, can you just repeat one more time? I say, yeah. But if it's smaller, doesn't that? I'll be asking questions along with my nerd friends. But I'm usually the one asking the questions. And of course, when I ask questions, I'm thinking like, oh man, I don't know anything. That's why I'm asking so many questions. I must be really dumb. And to everyone else, all the other kids in the lecture theater, they think that I'm the genius because they will say things like, "Oh well, Harapan the genius. He's so smart, like." But of course, I say no. I'm asking questions I don't know. But then I ask them, "Why aren't you asking questions? Because you know everything." And their answer is because no. It's because we don't know anything. They don't even know what to ask. They can't even form the question, why is the damping constant larger than omega? They can't even form what they don't know. They know even less on what's going on. Whereas because I know some, and that's why I know what to ask to bring me to the next level, right? So
Because you know where you're stuck.
Yeah. So being able to ask the right questions actually shows you are on your way to attaining the next level of mastery, right? You may not be a master yet, but you definitely are on your way to improving rather than just be stagnant. Yeah.
I think it also has like something to do like when in some cases with like daring to be the dumbest person in the room.
Yeah.
I
Daring
mean, of
to be
course,
the dumbest person in the room. Yeah.
yeah, no, like in some cases, you know, it's like you ask a question, and of course, like you say, you know exactly what to ask. But sometimes, like someone says something in such a way, like with so much confidence, that you think everyone knows what this means, but I don't know what this means, but I don't want to ask because I don't want to look dumb. But then when you ask it, you realize that no one actually knew what they were talking about.
Yes. I've realized that to be true as well. I always tell my students that, but no one believes me. No, it's always like that. But you realize that actually, if you don't ask, the question you have in your head is probably in the heads of many people. So if you don't ask, it's up to you. But if you ask, you're actually doing a favor for a lot of people around you. And no matter how simple the question is, you'll be surprised at there will be at least one person in the crowd who will be like, "Yeah, that's kind of interesting. I didn't even think of that," or something, like that. So at a magic lecture and things like that, I tend to try to ask questions to the lecturer, to even if it's something simple, and it's just to firstly get the conversation going to make the lecturer feel like maybe I empathize with being a teacher that I want some interaction with my students. So when I'm attending a lecture, I want to give them that energy by asking them questions, but to make the lecturer feel heard. But I think also it's to help the crowd feel like they're learning something beyond just a one-way monologue. There is a dialogue. There's a dialogue going on. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like one interesting thing. Like, I don't know if you know him, like a good friend of mine, Francisco Machia. Like he wrote the book about the finest magic of Pedro Lacerda, and also.
Okay.
But anyway, like Francisco lectured here in Amsterdam 2 months ago, and one interesting thing, which I'm definitely stealing from him, is he started his lecture like before I announced, like, "Hey, here's Francisco. He's gonna lecture." Right? Like people were already in the theater, and he was just like asking people, like, "Hey, what do you want to get out of this lecture? What are you expecting of this lecture?" And just literally going through everyone.
Yeah.
And I noticed like when he was giving the lecture, even though it was very theoretical, people felt more connected. He could relate this thing to that thing, like, yeah, this, and it's sort of like what you wanted to get out of this, or what you were saying with that and that. Like I related to it in this way. Which, like you say, it's like then you get that two-way street of being in a lecture.
You're not. I don't think he's the only guy. Shane Cobalt. He lectured many years ago in Singapore. This was maybe more than 10 years ago by now. He did the same thing as well. At the start of his lecture, he started going around like, "Hey, so what do you want to learn? So what do you want to learn?" Did your friend, is it Francisco? Francis?
Yeah, Francisco.
Yeah, Francisco. Did he really ask everyone in the room, or was it just a few?
Not everyone, but like granted, we only had 12 people in the room. So
okay, 12 people around the room. Okay, yeah, sure. So I always thought that was a great idea. That was a great idea. Ain Cobalt, I love his work. I think he went on a bit too long. I remember being in the lecture, I was like, okay, when's the lecture going to start? But he started asking everyone, and everyone gave an answer. He gave a very sincere, like, we can definitely touch on that. That is super important and stuff. And he made everyone feel that's great. But Shane, if you're listening, I apologize. It felt a bit long because he gave everyone that attention. Yes. It's good. Okay, next person. What do you want to do out of the lecture? I said, okay. Second person, cool. Third person, he's like, but by the 10th person, you're like, okay, wait a minute. When's the lecture going to start? Like, it's like 2 hours and we are like 45 minutes in. Like, wait. This is way too long. And then like, and everyone, whatever everyone says, he says, yes, we can get to that. Like, there's no way you can get to everything in the remaining like 1 hour. But I have another funny story. So about that. So of course I want to emulate that because I think what Shane did was correct and what Francisco did is correct. Is to ask what do they want to learn. Now this is the tragic story of one of my lectures. So when I was in university overseas, I came up with a trick called One Direction. Let me actually what the trick is. I show 4 kings, for example, or 4 cards, whatever, and I would mix them up like a mini packet triumph kind of thing. So I would face down, face up, face down, face up. And then you shake. Wow, they're all face down. Okay. Or I can do it many, many times. Face down, face up, face down, face up. This is not my handling. This method is like a classic kind of like handling. But at the end, I would say, hey, the kings are mixed in different directions. And then now when I snap, they're back in one direction. And when I say they're in one direction, I mean one direction. And when I show the cards, now it's like Harry Styles and Liam Payne and Niall and Zayn Malik and Louis Thomas. Yeah, it's super. I say, yeah, they're in one direction, saying they are in one direction. And that was the era of One Direction. And One Direction was at their peak of fame. Yeah. So I did this at a convention, at the session convention in 2014, I believe, which is the one I went to. And Zach Mueller from Fontaine Cards was there. Zach and Bizal was there, and they were like, dude, can we film it? Sure. I perform it. Can you teach it? Because we're making like a DVD.
Oh, yeah.
Go on a Europe trip or something like that. Can we film it? We're going to film a tutorial for it. I was like, sure, why not? And I was like teaching it. They're like, dude, you're the best trick ever, man. Harapan, you're the best. So like, blah, 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 blah. Now, that trick, and this is the stupid thing. I always think of myself like, oh, I'm a serious student of sleight of hand. Look, is the diagonal palm shift, 1 palm or 2 palm, how do you reduce finger flutter and stuff? But then there's also another side of me that's coming up with, one direction and things like that. So once that trick went out, later on in the year, I went to New York. And my friend Tony Chang, right, was like, hey, Harapan, do you want to lecture in New York? I said, sure. Do you want to lecture at Tennant's Magic? I was like, holy shit, Tennant's like this legendary magic. I was like, sure. It's like a chance of a lifetime to be so young and lecture at Tennant's. Sure, let's go to Tennant's. I go to Tennant's, I prepare I'm thinking, okay, I want to lecture about the theory of construction, of magic, and how I structure my magic, what makes magic beautiful, what is beauty in magic, elegance, efficiency, blah, 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 blah. The inevitability of a structure when the method resets or whatever, all that stuff. I go to the lecture, I stand there, Shane Cobalt kicks in. I said, I'm going to ask the audience what they want to learn. So I look in the crowd. First of all, the first thing I noticed, a lot of young kids. Okay? A lot of young kids. Nothing wrong with that, but they're all like this. They're like very excited to see me lecture, right? So I'm like, surprisingly, a lot of young kids in the audience. So I go to the first boy. I said, hi, your name is Rico. Hi, Rico. What do you want to see from this lecture? Are you going to teach the One Direction trick? Are you going to do the One Direction? I said, well, no, because I was thinking like, shit, everything I'm doing is super serious. There is no... I've got many joke tricks, but I didn't prepare any of them. Right? So I go, oh shit. I said, okay, interesting One Direction. Yeah, I saw the Zach Mueller DVD. Are you gonna do it? I said, well, we'll see. Yeah, sure. Okay, what about you? I was hoping to see the One Direction trick too. I said, what? I said, oh shit, like this is my legacy now. Like I can't escape it. So anyway, I can't change it now because I have the lecture. I already prepared I prepared my slides. I prepared my presentation, my flip chart. I've prepared everything. So I go into my whole spiel about the theory and stuff. And you can see the whole audience, like the whole audience is just dead because they're not getting what they want, but I can't help it. And then you can see the disappointment in their faces, like, okay, wait, this guy is way too serious. It's just way too, there's nothing interesting. And then there's a break. Tony Chang comes up to me and he's like, hey, dude, you got to change it up, man. This is not the energy we are hoping for. Like, oh shit. And then luckily for me, the second half, I managed to, I talked about improvisation. I talked about the trick cannot be explained, which was meant to be serious, but I did it in a way that was funny enough. I played a game with the audience where I let them try, and it actually became really, really fun. And so the second half saved everything, and it ended on a really high note. But the first half, like the first hour, really the worst lecture I've had. It's so dead because everyone was expecting to just like, hey, here's a One Direction. Oh, by the way, I've got a version with Katy Perry and a version with whoever. Yeah, knowing what your audience wants is very important. That's my story. Tony Chang probably remember it. That's horrible lecture. Horrible first half of the lecture. You can see all the kids were so dead. Man, like the bubble burst for them. That this guy is not who they thought.
We're gonna have to read books now, man.
Yeah, we have to. It's talking about Verdun. Oh man, I want to talk about Harry Styles. That's my story. That's my story. I'm sticking to it.
This is what Harapan does package.
I know, right? Have you ever lectured before, Rico, by any chance? Just out of curiosity. Have you lectured?
Yeah, multiple times.
Where have you lectured before? And do you have any highlights you can share?
Yeah, like for me, like that you saying that you asking questions to the lecturer, because I've lectured like in Poland. So I'm gonna lecture in Bulgaria soon. Did the Magic Circle, did some things in Scotland. I think about total like 10 lectures now so far. Vienna.
Nice.
But that thing with the questions, like I just remember like I was 20 or 19, 27. And I got asked by the Magic Circle, like, hey, do you want to do a lecture? And I'm like, holy shit.
Yeah.
Go to the Magic Circle. And I'm just there. And the first thing that happened is like Shane Cobalt is a good friend of mine. So I walk into the lecture room, and this is when Shane and I were still relatively new friends. And I just look at the first drawer and just see Shane sitting there like this. I just goes like,
yeah.
All I care about now is doing it good for that guy.
Yeah.
But the thing was, like, British crowds were very different from what I was used to. So they're like very much like put your hands over each other, just look at it, going, and just no response during the entire lecture. Like, does anyone have a question? No response. Do you want to know more about this? No response. So I'm thinking, like, I am fucking this up so badly. I'm at the circle. I'm way over my head. I'm getting way too nervous. So I stopped the lecture at one point, like just at the end, like still filled like the 1.5 hour mark, did a good lecture. And at the end, they heard like, oh, it was such a good lecture. And this was very good. And even got like an email, like people were talking about it late until the night. They were really inspired. And I'm just like, what was going on? And luckily, someone up the circle came to me and he was like, yeah, look, dude, like I saw you were being a bit uncomfortable, but you got to understand, like a lot of British people were not like very much outgoing in this sense, unless we're when we're wasted, we can do it. When we're sober, we can't. He was like, it was a good lecture, but like granted, this was also like the 5th lecture I ever gave. You know?
Yeah.
But yeah, no, like I think why I also mentioned this thing from Francisco was because I had some lectures like lately that now that I'm more aware of like what I'm teaching again after COVID, and I've been thinking a lot about my things. I'm like, some lectures were perfect, others were way too theoretical. And then I made the conclusion from that one to be like, oh, maybe I should be less theoretical. When I was less theoretical, people were like, yeah, you know, man, we were expecting a bit more depth from you, the things that you're writing and all the things you're doing.
Yeah.
Fuck. So
you can't please everyone. You can't please everyone.
No, but that's why I think asking that question and being like, hey, what do you want to see? And maybe just having like sort of a general direction of your lecture, but maybe having like 10 or 20 things ready that you can show, and then just like adjust those things depending on what the crowd wants to see.
Okay, I know what to say next. Okay, hot take, Rico. We just talked about the importance of asking the audience what they want. Yeah. Here's my hot take. Maybe that's not the best thing to do. Because as many visionaries will tell you, like Steve Jobs, for example, the audience doesn't know what they want. You have to tell them what they want. What do you think of that? If you ask them what they want, they don't know. Like I said, like my students don't know how to form the questions. So you ask them what they want, they're going to say things that maybe it's actually not that important. But you, as the visionary, as the lecturer, maybe you're supposed to let them realize this is what they need.
Yeah.
What do you think?
I think it's a good take, but I also believe like you should still relate it in some way to what they want, right? Because they need to listen to what they don't know they want in order to realize that that's a profound thing or a beautiful thing or something they can work with.
Yeah. But that's the thing. You have to make them, you have to convince them that what you're giving to them is the thing they want, instead of just giving them like, instead of saying, hey, what do you want? You want apple? Okay, I give you apple. It's more like, hey, I've got an orange. I'm going to convince you why you want an orange and not an apple, or whatever you have in your mind. So something like, I don't know. This is just a controversial.
Yeah, I think now what I'm working on, like for lectures mostly, is to still be like, I want to do this trick, but this guy said that he wants to learn something about like construction of a routine, right? So now I would talk more about like how I got to that point of that trick. So still about all the beauty of the routine, but be like, hey, it started like this, and then I chose to make it go there for this and this reason. So now that person is engaged. I'm still teaching him the same thing. I'm just putting it in. Packet.
Yeah. But no matter how you do it, I think the fundamental principle still stands that if your audience will definitely be more engaged if you're talking about something that they want to hear. The question is whether it's really what they want to hear, or whether it's something that you have convinced them is what they want to hear.
For sure.
Yeah.
And that's also a difficult thing, right? Like in some way, the most lectures that make the most impact, we go there and we go like, whoa, this guy talked about this thing, like that completely changed the whole game.
For you, yeah.
But if you, or if that guy would only talk about what you want to hear, then maybe he would have never said that.
Correct. Exactly. So sometimes just giving them what they want, or at least what they think they want, may not always be the best approach. You sometimes have to present to them alternative views, and rather than just being like an echo chamber, right? I mean, if that's all they hear, their views will never change. The point is letting them hear things that they've never heard before.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's kind of also a hot take, but like Strong Magic from Darwin Ortiz. I think it's a good book. Let's preface with that. But to me, many things I'm reading in this book, I'm like, I know this already. Because that's why I'm not interested in the book. Even though I think a lot of the things in the book are true, I already know these things. They're not challenging my way of thinking. They're not challenging anything.
Yeah, I see. Is that a hot take? Let me think. Is it a hot take? I mean, I remember Strong Magic still has its critics. I mean, when it was first published, it had its critics, right? Along with Designing Miracles and things like that. I like both books. I personally like Designing Miracles more than Strong Magic. Of course, I relate to the construction of stuff more than the strength of magic or whatever, which I thought, of course, is important. But I personally don't see it as a problem if the book reinforces what I already know, unless it's a boring book. But if, like, for example, when I read the Ascanio books on like the structural conception of magic, a lot of things in there are things I know already. And I found myself nodding a lot. But that's also why it's one of my favorite books. Because sometimes it's not just about whether this thing is challenging me or agreeing or not. It's also about how they put it. It's also about how they phrase it. And sometimes I know that this is the correct thing to do, but to see it written in a certain way, they go like, oh yeah, like this, the parenthesis of forgetfulness, that's exactly what that's exactly what I've been thinking about, but I don't have a word for it. But now to see them phrase it out properly, there's actually a lot of value to seeing that. So that's why I like the Ascanio book. A lot of things I was like, yeah. Maybe Strong Magic is Ascanio had a more, or at least the translated version had a bit more of an artistic flair to it, which is not how I'm used to thinking about magic, which is why I was like, yeah, I like the way you write. It's not how I'm used to it. Strong Magic maybe is a little bit more like, I mean, he's a lawyer, right? I think Darwin Ortiz is a lawyer, so maybe it's a bit more.
I'm not sure.
I would thought he was a lawyer. Never mind. He has a more.
Ascanio was a lawyer.
Sorry?
Ascanio was a lawyer.
Yeah, but he's Spanish, so it's not counted.
But he's Spanish.
Yeah, he's Spanish, it's not counted. Yeah, but Darwin Ortiz has a certain way of writing. Like, he's very, very much more to the point. So it's a bit more
very direct,
a bit more monotonous, a bit more boring, a bit more direct. So maybe it's like, yeah, I know this. Yeah, exactly. It's like, yep, I know it. Whereas, Ascanio would tell a story or something like that, and then bring out a point or something like that.
I think so yeah. Point also you give, like, he gave us a vocabulary for magic, so now we can just say this.
Correct.
We have 10-minute story of this concept.
Correct. Which is also why I like Designing Miracles. Designing Miracles has a lot of vocabulary.
Yes.
There's a lot of vocabulary, temporal proximity, visual proximity, between the method and the effect and things like that you can use as a framework for discussing magic theoretically. That's the power of theory, is to provide a framework for what you can gather from real world performance. Theoretical magicians are those who take these things and form into a framework so it can be easily transferred to other magicians. Yeah.
I think there's one thing in Designing Miracles, particularly, it's not in the Ascanio book, because Ascanio talks a lot about like the like the contrast, right? Like between the initial and the final situation, and the contrast being the magical effect. And Darwin, this is one thing he calls the critical interval, which is sort of like the time in between. So the time that in between that contrast. So for example, linking rings, especially if you do a lot of rings together, has a very short critical interval.
Yep.
There's many moments where it links and it unlinks.
Yep.
Cups and balls, same story. Many moments where it vanishes, reappears. And some tricks take way longer.
Yeah. Spelling tricks. No, just kidding. Okay. Yeah.
21 card tricks.
21 card tricks. Yeah. I mean, these concepts, and then Ascanio would frame it as like the anti-contrasting parenthesis. So if you spend too long talking about a story in between the initial and final, people forget what the initial was, so the final's not as cool.
Yes, exactly.
Right. So if it's like this, like, whoa, it changed. Oh wait, that's a horrible change. if you do this, I hate it. It's like, then it changed to the same card. It's cool, but if you show a card and then you go like, okay, so the power of cards is yada yada and yada yada, and that's why see, it's not as strong because you've waited too long.
That's it.
But then at the same time, the hard part, the fine line is that sometimes if it's too short, like if you do this, if you go like okay, 2 of diamonds, it's down a 10. The method is too close to the effect. That dropping it here, that must have been where the 2 is. So that's the parenthesis of forgetfulness. Which parenthesis you go for, is the fine line. And that's the theory of we can discuss.
Of course.
Yeah.
No,
but this podcast is beyond the method. So are we going too far into the method, Rico?
No, I think so, man. Like I think that this is still like a good thing to think about. No, but especially like you say, like it's like, okay, you either that's because, right, is the parenthesis of forgetfulness, but also the anti-contrasting parenthesis in the sense that, like, okay, if you don't put enough time in between you get to the methods too quickly. But then if you put too much time in between it, you screw with the contrast. That's why
Correct.
It's anti-contrasting.
Yeah, it's anti-contrasting.
But I'm thinking also, like, some things don't even have a contrast, right? Like because he's also talking about like you loading something, like you're stealing a load from your side. So then the contrast is rather empty hand to something is produced. So
yeah.
Can you create an anti-contrasting parenthesis there?
Or for what? For making something appear? Yeah. I mean, a dove production usually is pretty fast, right? But there are dove productions that are slow. Like you show a cloth and you bunch it up, and a dove appears from it. I can imagine it anti-contrast is like you have a cloth and you bunch it up in your hand, and you talk about,
you're waiting too long.
You wait too long for it, and you pass from hand to hand. You put it on the table, and you pick it up, and you're like, birds and life and stuff like that. And that's why the thing, like, you probably took it out sometime. Like, I just didn't see. And if you did it immediately like this, or it's empty, bunch it up. Whoa, where did the bird come from? Because they just saw it empty. Right?
So even though you stole it, and that moment between stealing and production can take however long you want, still the moment of the production needs to have a certain time frame.
Yeah, I think so.
Okay,
I think so. Yeah. I remember my friend Edward Hillsome from the UK. He does this dove productions on stage, and a lot of people who do dove productions, they show the cloth and then they steal it and then immediately start producing it here. And he used to like steal it. I remember he was in my university as well, so he stole it and he went like this, and then he just like watch, and then he just reached out like that, and he like rustled the cloth in his hand, like right here, and then the dove appeared there, like far away. And that was very strong. I always thought it was a very simple thing where, you showed the cloth, you rumple it up, and you rustle, and then the bird emerges from the cloth, like far away from the secret.
Yeah.
But the parenthesis of forgetfulness is there without the anti-contrasting parenthesis. Like, it's quick enough, but it's not too long. He's like far enough that the spatial distance is far enough.
He's removing distance from where it actually came from, where it's produced.
Yeah, correct. Yeah.
To switch gears entirely, one thing I was wondering about very much, like I've seen, like, over the past many years, you've been like organizing a lot of things in Singapore, right? Like magic-based events, like jams and just get-togethers. How did that start?
Yeah. So I've always loved jamming. I've always loved jamming with magicians. To me, that is the best part of any convention. I don't know if you agree with me. When I go to conventions, the best part is the jamming. The worst parts are the talks. And that's coming from the teacher. I know the talks, like, yes, you go to Tamaris and it's like, nice. And then it's like, oh, Guy Holling was talking. Yeah, sure. But sometimes you'll get some talks that are just like, man, I don't want to be here. You just be like, you want to go out and just hang out and jam. That's way better if you just grab a taco or something. Anyway, so I've always believed in the idea of jamming with magicians. In the UK, when I was studying there, I used to jam a lot with my friends there, who I'm still very close friends with. I consider close friends with. When I came back to Singapore, the first time I tried to do some sort of like a jam event kind of thing, it's actually the one that not many people know of. It was a very exclusive event. I sent out an email to some of my friends, and I called it the Magic Sesh, like session, SESH, hashtag Magic Sesh. It's like, hey, come here for a, and it was just to my house, to a random apartment. We're gonna stay overnight. Very ambitious. You come by in the evening or in I can't remember whether it was in the evening or in the whole. I think it was maybe in the evening. Like after dinner, just jam. And if you want to go home, you can go home. But otherwise, you can stay overnight and sleep over. Totally fine. We'll bring DVDs to watch. Back then, we'll watch like I'll bring a Danny Doherty's like Utopia DVD or something like that to get some inspiration here. I have cards. I have a card table. We have snacks, and that was the thing. And quite a lot of people came. Quite a few people came. We were hanging out, and then some people stayed over. That was fun. Then later on in 2017, I believe, I suddenly had this idea to just do like an open jam. So I call it an open magic jam. On Instagram, when I was still at the peak of my activity, which now I don't even touch Instagram much anymore. On the peak of my Instagram fame, I posted on my story saying, hey, this Saturday from 1 to 6 p.m., I'm going to be at this particular cafe, like this Coffee Bean or whatever, at this particular shopping mall. I'm just going to be sitting there with a book and I'm just going to be shuffling cards and reading. If anyone wants to come by and jam, feel free to come. Otherwise, I'll just be there spending an afternoon by myself, reading and drinking and drinking a drink, right?
It's a win anyway, right?
It's a win anyway. It's a win anyway. So I sit there and I swear, like, I think there were about 20 people came, right? That's something. Then it became a monthly thing. I started doing it every month on a Saturday for an afternoon. I would sit at somewhere. I would announce it on Instagram saying, Open Magic Jam this Saturday. Come by, come and jam. And it became a thing where every month there will be at least like 20 to 30 people just showing up. Any 20 people just showing up to jam. And at its peak, some magicians from overseas started coming, like Eric Chin, for example. Eric Chin was like, hey, I'm happen to be in Singapore. I said, do you want to come by the jam? He said, yeah, sure. So I announced Open Magic Jam Special Edition, Eric Chin, special guest. Like 80 people show up. It's a free event, right? It's not paid. And so 80 people, and the place was packed. The place was incredibly packed. And I was very lucky I managed to find a food court, basement of a hospital that no one goes to. And their business is terrible because who goes to a hospital to eat? But they have a food court down there. So I will hold the jams there every month, and the people never chase us out because they have no one there anyway. It's not like we are blocking customers from sitting down. So we just go to a corner of the food court and it'll be bustling. And sometimes the workers there will be like looking like, what's going on? There's just an event going on. And that continued until COVID hit. That's how it started. Yeah. It went on really well. I mean, so it fluctuated over the months. So some months there were only like 7 people. And then some months when the kids were on holiday or something, it would be like I said, 20, 30 people. So it fluctuated. Yeah. So some months were only like 7 people, some months 30 people. But generally there was a momentum going on. I was making stickers for people. It was almost like a little community. But COVID hit, canceled everything. I could have done an online thing, online Magic Jam, but I decided not to for some reason. At that time, I felt like I had used up a lot of my energy doing this. It's time for me to be more introspective. So I took a step back. I stopped all contact with the outside world besides Instagram. I was working on my own material more. And then after COVID in 2022, I started what I'm doing to this day. I wanted to come back to the jamming thing, but maybe not monthly, because now that I'm married with kids, every month starts to get a little bit hard.
I get what you mean.
A monthly thing. So I do an annual thing called Mega Jam, right? So Mega Jam becomes an annual thing. It was partly inspired by going to CardistryCon in 2022 in San Diego. And my first CardistryCon, it was very inspiring. First convention after COVID. That energy was something I would never forget. And I was like, yeah, I want to capture some of that again back in Singapore. I miss this energy. And for actually, even before 2022, for many years, I've been asking if CardistryCon can be in Singapore. I will reach out to my friend Kevin Ho, who was friends with Dan and Dave, who used to also help organize some of the CardistryCons back then. Like, hey, come to Singapore. Like, because I know they rotate, or I don't know if they still do, but they used to rotate like America, Europe, Asia, America, Europe, Asia. So it's like New York, Berlin, Hong Kong, LA, whatever, right? Belgium, whatever. I can't remember
Mhm.
what country. So when they came to Hong Kong, when it was Asia time, I was like, dude, you have to come to Singapore, right? There are so many artists in Singapore and stuff. But they were like, yeah, Singapore's too hot and it's not cool enough. Singapore is a very sterile, known to be like a very sterile, efficient country. It's not the cool like see Hong Kong or the aesthetic, the vibes of Tokyo is a bit different, right?
Yeah.
So I mean, like Tokyo was last year, right? Tokyo, I see. So no one wants to come to Singapore. So I thought, I was like, fuck it. If I'm going to, instead of waiting for someone else to do it here, I'll do it. Like Thanos. Fine, I'll just do it myself. I'm just gonna do it. So I just did a Mega Jam 2022. It's been growing every year, getting bigger and bigger. The first year, I was so worried it wouldn't work. We managed full house, 60 people, full house. Then the next year was like 80 people. Then last year was 90 people. And the place got bigger and bigger. Like the venue got more and more beautiful. Last year we got special guests, and this year we're going to get even crazier special guests. Our goodie bags are insane because of so many people who are willing to sponsor us. It's a very small event, so they're willing to sponsor. Just like, hey, can we get some bricks of cards and sponsor rather than Cardistry Con, who's like, if you want to sponsor Cardistry Con, it's like we want 500 decks. Versus mine is like, can we have 8 bricks? Like 90 decks? They're like, okay. They're more willing to like, yeah, sure, we've got some stock that we can't sell, something like that. Just send it over. So we get some crazy goodie bags, crazy lucky draws. And the energy is great. What I love to see is everyone making connections, making friends. These jams. Yeah. A lot of friendships that I currently see today in Singapore, like this guy's always jamming out with this guy, started from Open Magic Jam. I saw a lot of people who met in these jams and now are growing up together in Magic because of these things. And I think that's the most valuable thing. Having said anything that you've shared, any ideas, is the connections that have been made to these jams.
Yeah. It's one of those things also, like for me, like some people I met at conventions, like I'm still very close friends with until this day,
Yeah.
And it's the same thing. Like there's this one convention in Scotland called the Carl of Fong Gathering. And
Carl of Fong what?
The Carl of Fong Gathering. So Carl of Fong is a trick from Roy Walton, like a trick with a dice.
No wonder his name sounds familiar. Okay, yes.
Yeah. And this convention was organized in honor of Roy Walton. So it's a very small thing. So it's like kind of based around the Buffalo 52. So there's 52 spots. That's the max. There's always a free spot for Roy Walton, but well, he sadly passed away. There used to always be a free spot for Andrew Galloway, who also sadly enough passed away, and then for Gordon Bruce, who is still there and still kicking.
Gordon Bruce, yeah. Okay, good. I was going to mention it's good at Gordon Bruce. I have fond memories of Gordon Bruce and Roy Walton. I've not met Andrew Galloway before, but I've met Roy and Gordon when I was in the UK. Yeah, because when I was in the UK, I walked into a shop once and the shopkeeper was like, oh, Roy Walton was just here last week signing books. The complete Walton Volume 3 was out. And I was like, wait, what? He's alive? To me, he's the era of like Elmsley and Vernon kind of. I would think he's dead. And he's like, no. If you just take a train up to Scotland, you can see him in Glasgow. I was like, oh shit. And then I'm going.
You just go to
Thames Rapids. Yeah. So I called the shop in advance. I was told to call because he may not be there every day. So I called and I went up to the shop, and it was a fantastic shop. I mean, what I liked about it was it's so friendly. I went there. His daughters were there to welcome me. Like, hey, oh, you're Harry. I called myself Harry back then because I didn't want people to try to pronounce Harapan. Oh, you're Harry. Hi, nice to meet you from Singapore. Cool. And, Roy Walton came out. It was showing crazy stuff. Even at 80, it was like, I think it was 81 or 82 back then. He was showing me center deals and bottom deals and stuff like that, all invisible. He was dealing cards on the table. I was like, oh, is this like a dealing trick? And he's like, no, I'm doing center deals. I was like, okay, fuck you. Like that kind of thing. I didn't know what he was doing. Once he was just sitting there going like, oh, okay. Oh, then I was like, oh, am I supposed to say stop? He was like, no, I'm just practicing center deals. He said, you see. I'm like, oh, okay, cool. So, and then another sign of why it was so friendly was because some customers came in, and then Roy was like, hey, Julia, his daughter's like, go and buy some donuts. And he bought some donuts for the whole shop. And they were just like eating donuts, drinking tea and stuff like that. And then suddenly this man comes in. It's like this tall, lanky man comes in. And he's talking to Roy, and I'm like, he's seeing me playing with cards, and he's like, hey, oh, that's pretty good. What are you doing? I said, oh, I'm doing like the zero shuffle. I don't know what I can't remember what I'm doing. Like, I'm doing something, and I was like, oh. Then I asked him, can you show me something? And he's like, no, you show me something first. Like, show me what you're working on. So I show him a trick. Good, 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 good. Here, come. So your name is Harry, huh? Yeah. Come, you want me to bring you around? You're new in Glasgow. And he brought me around, and then we went to a pub,
Mm.
and it turns out he's Gordon Bruce. I didn't know he was Gordon Bruce, but eventually he mentioned he was Gordon. I was like, oh wow, okay, yes, I've heard, yes, Gordon Bruce. And he started showing me, he started learning some stuff from me. And I don't know if he's still like that, but unfortunately, I think he was trying to learn something from me, but his hands was shaking very violently. And he's not was a nervous. I think he said he was taking some medicine that made his hands like shake. So it was an unfortunate sight to see. But he was like, so when you cut the cards, like what do you do like that? So it was quite sad. But he was so friendly. And one thing that always stuck with me that I would never forget was he asked me, oh, so your name is Harry, right? I said yes. And he said, is that your real name? I said no, it's Harapan. But I just call myself Harry, when I'm in the UK. And then he told me, you should. He did say like, you should never change your name. Like you should be proud of your name, of your ethnic name, rather than change it to make it like anglicized, which is very opposite of what you think. Was the reason why I changed my name was so many people and so many British people couldn't pronounce my name, right? Right. So the fact that there was this Scottish guy who was like, no, you should be proud of your heritage. Like, just keep your name, like don't change it to Harry. How is Harapan? Okay, I'll call you Harapan. Like just that was interesting. Yeah. So Gordon Bruce left a big impression on me as being a very kind and friendly gentleman who knew the intricacies of anglicizing and an ethnic name like that. Yeah. So yeah, that was my story with Gordon Bruce.
Well, I mean, Gordon traveled the world, man. Like, because I don't know if you know this, but he used to be a double bass player for the
Oh no, I
British
didn't know that.
Orchestra, I believe. So he traveled like all over the world. He met like that's how he met most of the greats. The greats. He would just be in Canada and he would be close to the border, and he was like, "Let me take a taxi to like the Four Forks Hotel, Let me meet Eddie Factor."
Sick.
So,
Yeah, maybe that's why he's so like well versed with like different cultures and stuff like that. Wow, that's impressive.
Like now Gordon is way better with the hands, by the way.
Okay.
But I would say even because it's a shame you saw him like that. There is this magical moment 2 and 6 beers when he is the best card handler I've seen in my life.
Yeah.
Like he will just like literally like have a card going to like just have the outjug to go like this. Okay, so it's lost. He's like, no, it's a palm. Like, what the?
Yeah. I've had these moments before of people. Not I'm trying to top your story, but yeah, there are some people who are so good at palming. Yeah, it's just like, hey, look at this, you put it in, right? Yeah, see? Like, what you're doing? It's like, meanwhile, you're like, hey, look at this. Whoa, that was a pretty good diagonal palm shape, huh? That you think you're pretty good. You're doing shitty things like, hey, look at this. And then meanwhile, their palms, I've seen people who just like, your palm, and it's crazy. The most magical moment I had was, I'm so angry with myself. I never asked for this person's name. So I don't know who it is. I just know it's a Spanish guy. Of course, it's a Spanish guy. So I was sessioning with Jan Frisch. Jan Frisch was performing in London with his friends, like a layman performance. And then after the show, he was like, hey, yeah, let's hang out. So me and my friends were hanging out with Jan, like talking about card moves and stuff. Suddenly there's just this Spanish guy who's just standing beside us, like watching us and like, hey, can I join? I have no idea who he is. Never seen him before in my life. He sits down. He's like, oh, you guys are magicians? Yeah, my name is whatever. Maybe he said his name, but I can't remember anymore, which is unfortunate. Well, he started doing that palm. He was like, oh, yeah, I've been working on this thing. And he does the craziest palm, which is one of those things like, oh, and it's like, yeah, see? And palm. I go like, what? Yeah, so, yeah. The thing is, it's not anyone famous that, like, don't say that, oh, is it Harvey Benitez? Is it, it's not. It's just someone that I have no idea who it is until now. So, yeah. These hidden talents that I've never seen before and will never hear of again, unfortunately.
It's a shame, man. You mentioned also that you're stopped using Instagram, sort of. Is there a particular reason?
I've kind of stopped posting. The reason is because I've kind of like, okay, so I stopped in 2022. enough just before Mega Jam even began. And the reason was because I'll tell you this is the honest reason. For the longest time, I've already been sick and tired of Instagram. I was one of those guys who was like obsessing over every detail. My wife and then my then girlfriend would know this. I'll be like, oh man, did I flash? Wait, let me just like slow down and I think I flashed, like there's a flash of a little blue bit here. Let me see the thing. And I would obsess over like how many likes I would get, how many views I would get, how many comments I get, what's my growth like. I was very, very obsessed with that to the point of it was very unhealthy. I felt it was very unhealthy. And honestly, I was sick of it, but I felt I had to keep that momentum because I was growing so well. So it would be like, it would affect me emotionally. Like, for example, I would post every Sunday, I would post one video or something every Sunday. That was my schedule. I would post it, and I had to get 1,000 likes in 1 hour, or it's a failure.
Wow. Okay.
I had to get 1,000 likes in 1 hour. So I would post it at 9 p.m. on Sunday every Sunday, 9 p.m. And then I would put it there. I would not look at it for 1 hour. And 1 hour, I'll look at it. And if it's like 650 likes, I'll be like, shit, man. Like what happened? Like, I did it. It was a perfect trick. Then I'll be like, oh, maybe, okay, let me go and reply to the comments now. I'll like repost my story, like try to pump up the numbers, right? Comment on everything. I'll comment to everyone like, hey, what's to build engagement or something like that. I put the hashtags and so on. So I'll beg people like, hey, can you repost my story and do all this shit? And when we reach 1,000, I'm like, okay, fine. The next morning is 1,000. I'm like, okay. It's not within 1 hour, but okay.
Wow.
You know. And then some videos I would like film it perfectly, edit it well, and even after the next week, 700 likes. And I'll be like, oh man, like that's ruined. Like my whole week is like, oh my God, like this is so dumb. Like what's going on? Like I did so much work for nothing. And of course, the opposite is true. If I post something and then 1 hour later I check, it's like 1,600 likes. I'm like, holy shit, it's going viral. Like, oh my God, I'm so happy. It's the best day of my life. But it's like an up and down thing, emotional roller coaster, really unhealthy. But so I've been sick for a long time. I've been sick of it for a very long time, to be honest. But what eventually stopped me was when I got married. So I got married, and what changed for me was this. Before I got married, when I was with my girlfriend, she would film for me on Saturday when we went on dates. My wife and my girlfriend is also a cardist and a magician, so she's okay with it. So she's like, I said, like, hey babe, can you film something for me? Like for your social media? Okay, I'll do a thing. And I'll be like, it's not very good. Can we try one more time? And mama. And it's okay because we meet every week. If I ask her to film the video like 15 times, it's okay because we only meet once a week. If you are seeing her every day at the same house, and I'm like, it's not good, it starts to get frustrating. There's a lot of friction. It starts to be like, it's good enough. Come on, you have to film again. No, babe, one more time. It wasn't smooth. I think I said 4 cards instead of 4. No, that wasn't good. No, it should be 4. No, like try again. And there was a lot of friction, and she was getting very frustrated with my incessant, like obsessive filming perfectionist kind of view. And I thought to myself, like, I think it's not worth it anymore. Like this thing is not worth it. It's not worth ruining this relationship, this marriage, if I keep doing this. So in February of 2022, I was like, you know what? Screw it. What if I just don't post this week? Like, what will happen if I just don't post? If I just stop, I don't post, will anyone miss it? No. I was like, oh, no one messaged me like, hey,
what's up, Harapan?
Okay, maybe in the next few months, maybe there were like one or two people every month who are like, hey, I miss your videos, man. Like, but it's minimal. It's like no one misses me. So I was like, I'll not post for 1 more week. And the next day I don't post. It felt good. Like, hey, I don't have to. There's no stress.
Yeah.
So it became, and now I have absolutely no more motivation to be posting videos unless I really want to. I have a trick I really want to share. I might post like 1 a year or 2 a year. The rest of the stuff is promotional stuff, like just Mega Jam promotional stuff, promoting lectures if I'm organizing something. Otherwise, I no longer feel that I no longer want to be in that toxic relationship with my social media where I'm like constantly chasing for likes. I really hated it for the longest time. My wife gave me a chance to step off it, and I no longer miss it. So that's some people say it's a shame. Some of my friends are like, "Oh, it's a shame, man. You were building so much. It could have been the next big thing." And I know what they mean, but I no longer miss it. It was a burnout situation where I wouldn't want to do it again. And now I can't with kids. Now it's even harder for
Mhm.
me to.
And you also don't really want to give that image to your kids, right? Like,
Yeah, I don't want to be the kid who is like, "Hey, dad, come, let me film you, girl, come." Oh no, no, no! Dance again, dance again. That's not good. No, those are social media parents
yeah, yeah.
who's putting their kids on social media all the time, or obsessing. I, I'm, I'm absolutely not interested in that
Mm,
anymore. It's not that I don't scroll social media. I still do. I still
mm,
watch videos. There's a lot of talented people way better than I am out there, and I just learn from it rather than be the one creating stuff. I
mm,
think I have my brand down. People who know me, who buy my books, buy my books.
mm,
And if I do lectures and stuff, and when I do Mega Jam, people still know me and come for my events.
mm,
And to me, it's more valuable than having this insane posting schedule and this toxic, emotional roller coaster I experience
yeah.
every week, every Sunday. It's just super unhealthy, and I don't miss it at all. I never want to go near it again. Now, when I post it, I just post it and I just screw it. I ignore it.
It sounds like an addiction almost.
Yeah, it really was, because like seeing like, oh my god, that one post got me like 500 followers.
Mhm.
Like, yeah, like, you just injected heroin, right? Just like, yes. And then you post a thing and then it's like 400 likes. And it's like, what went wrong? And it's like you have withdrawal symptoms that you want to get
Mm,
back to the high. It was not good. It was really, really not good. So luckily,
it's so
but
crazy. That can have that effect.
it really was. It really was that
Mm,
unhealthy. And I think a lot of content creators out there probably feel that times 1,000, probably like Mr. Beast or back
mm,
then at PewDiePie. They probably all feel the same thing. And I'm sure if you ask the big creators out there, YouTube, whatever, they probably will say the same thing, that they don't miss it
mm,
anymore. So much more liberating. I'm just practicing things that I want to do.
yeah.
Really done what I need. I'm very grateful for all the attention and support I got back then,
Mhm.
but I really don't miss the toxicity of that chasing for likes and chasing for views. It's just
Th-
not necessary.
That's a that like building that audience change your relationship to magic, and did it change again like after you stopped doing this?
Yeah. I mean, to say good things about those times, it was a very creative period of my time, because I had to force myself to create
Mm,
every week, or to maybe not say create every week, but think of something every week. Whether it's read something in a book, wow, this Roy Walton trick is good. It would work for Instagram. Let's go. Let's post it on Instagram. So it forced me to be constantly doing magic. Like, there's a pressure to it.
mm,
So I was very creative back then. Secondly, I don't know if it's a good or bad thing, but a lot of my magic became um very Instagram friendly,
mm,
very visual. And another good thing is a lot of my friends were made through Instagram. I think one of the reasons why Queen KPM, my book, sold so well was because I had that fame. It came out in 2018 when I was like at the
mm,
peak of my fame. Vanishing Ink was so shocked at how well the book sold compared to the other books, because then they realized that social media is the real thing. And now, I mean, they're a social media giant right now, Vanishing Ink, right? But
mm,
back then, they were not that strong. They didn't think it would sell books. Putting my name like Harapan, oh, you know him from Instagram. Now here's his book. That's why the book sold out in like a month. And then
wow.
they had to scramble to reprint it.
Mm,
And it's still selling till today. I think Instagram opened many doors for me. So I have
mm,
no regrets about the benefits it has brought me and the kind of fame it has brought me. But like
mm,
I said, I just no longer miss that background toxic behavior that I had.
yeah.
Right? Like if you ask Mr. Beast right now, like, is he bringing you a lot of benefit? Yeah, he's super rich. He's getting connections everywhere, I'm sure. But
Mm,
that if he's like me and he's at that level of like, oh, it's not okay. He definitely, but I know he does this thumbnails thing. I don't know if you've watched. He talks about, he changes his thumbnails um constantly,
oh,
because he
really?
believes the thumbnail is key to whether someone clicks it, which is true, right? Like on YouTube,
Yeah.
you click whether the thumbnail is his face going like this or matters. It
Mm.
says it matters whether it's a 1 million view video or a 50 million view video. It's the thumbnail that matters.
You know, like
So
actually Netflix does the same thing. So Netflix,
yeah,
like depending on what you
changes the
watched, it changes your thumbnail.
correct. So if you watch more like cutesy stuff, they will show more cutesy stuff or
Mm.
whatever. If you watch more horror stuff, they will change the Squid Game thing to something more horrific. Right? Same thing. Yeah. So Mr. Beast is constantly like, he has like 50 thumbnails for the same video. And when he uploads it, I think he talks about it. You can go and watch on YouTube, some documentary where he says like, he will upload one video, then analyze it after 1 hour. Like the growth is not there. Let's change it. Let's change the thumbnail right now. And
Wow.
YouTube allows him to change the thumbnail. See, so he's constantly changing. And within the next week or month, it's still changing like every few days.
Mm.
And he says that it's also to boost them, because when you see a new thumbnail, it may be the same video, but new thumbnail will make people think, oh, is it a new video? Let me click it. And one click is one engagement and things like that. So I'm sure he's in that level of, he's my level of toxicity, but times 1 billion.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, I just don't miss it anymore. I just don't miss it anymore. But it definitely brought me a lot of benefits. I like that. Yeah.
No, but I think that's also good. Like you're recognizing what it did to you, and you don't want to do that anymore. But you're also like, yeah, there was also a good side to it, and you're still
There
grateful.
was a good side to it. Yeah. I mean, you look online now, there's so many influencers in Magic who are way better than I am in terms of getting the followers and the likes and stuff. I don't know how they are like. I hope they're not as toxic as I was. But that was the idea for me. Yeah. I just know what I liked and didn't like about it. And I realized it was not worth it. I think as I was growing up,
Yeah.
and I was focusing on my career more outside of Magic, I was like, I think I can put down the social media and focus a little bit more on my family, my work, my kids, and live events. So I do all these live events rather than just the online likes, like how many likes per video. I think the live events, getting 90 people to show up on Mega Jam is a bigger achievement for me.
That's such a cool thing, dude. Like you create this thing, and then you're like, all these people showed up. Holy.
Yeah. The first year I was so worried, but then the second year, third year, I started to realize there is some momentum. So I'm not so worried now that I can't get the numbers. It's just making sure the people who pay the tickets get their money's worth, and they do get their money's worth. It's really, really crazy what we do. The goodie bag, the guests, really, really good stuff. Yeah.
Okay. So I want to end up the podcast with 4 questions I always ask any guest.
Okay, let's go.
The first one is, who is someone lesser known?
Someone who is lesser known that everyone should know about. Let me think for a moment. I don't know if, I mean, there's so many to think. I don't even know which answer I should give. Like one answer I give is like Stuart James that I just mentioned. I think many magicians don't know him. If you're out there and you're interested to see some of the craziest, cleverest pieces of magic, you can check out Stuart James's work. They're not easy to find, but if you can find it, they're crazy. And I'll be honest, let me preface this by saying this, not all of his magic is performable. A lot of it is more the method being clever rather than the performance. But there's some things that perform from Stuart James, and I really, really like. But then there are many people that I've met going around the world. In Asia, for example, so many magicians in China, in Japan, in Korea, in Singapore, in Indonesia, and so on, who are really good, but no one knows about them. I mean, just in Singapore, my friends who I hang out with now, like a little group of us, we call ourselves the Twisted Aces after the Twisting the Aces, the Twisted Aces. They're all very good magicians. Avi is in it, unfortunately. Unfortunately, yeah. I try not to get him in, but he wanted in. So,
Avi has his way of getting into things.
Yeah, I know, right? Yeah. He's one guy that is famous that I wish less people know of. But anyway, yeah, but Twisted Aces, there are many unknown people, like my friend Hui Hang, Ryan, Isaac, Gerald, Alan. Just a shout out to them. They're all fantastic magicians in Singapore who I think are really good and think a lot about what they do. They're all younger than me, but I think they have a bright future, and they're all trying to do their best along with me. We're all in it together. There's no hierarchy here. We're just all in it together to help uplift the community. But I think there are a lot of people like that in Singapore, for example, who are just fantastic magicians that no one knows about.
And I think you like those are the people you wrote that book Stilo with, right? Or
Stilo, yeah, correct. With some of them, yeah, but now we've added some new members, and we now rebranded ourselves as the Twisted Aces.
Okay. What is your biggest inspiration inside of Magic?
What's my biggest inspiration inside of Magic?
Yeah.
You mean a person or
person? It could be a concept. Could be like, oh, I keep going back to this book and like I keep getting new stuff from it.
Okay. Biggest inspiration. I think the biggest inspiration I have inside of Magic has evolved over time. So I'm going to say a name. He's still a good friend of mine. I have a lot of respect for him, but I definitely was much more of a. Wait, am I frozen? No, okay. I was definitely much more of a fan of his, like a much more like idolizing him kind of thing. Joshua J. When I was younger, I bought one of his books, Magic Atlas, which was like 17 years old, and I was very inspired by him because here's a 17-year-old kid publishing a book. I was like 14 or 13 back then. I wanted to be like him. I wanted to also publish a book when I was 17. It never happened, of course, but um, people like that inspire me who do things like that make me want to like, yeah, that's a goal I want to achieve. Stuart James, also an inspiration for that visualization thing we were talking about.
Mhm.
I think there was this Theory 11 video. Theory 11 doesn't come up as a topic often when you talk about inspiration, but
Mhm.
Theory 11, in the early days, Chris Kenner he did a video where he did a Q&A video on Theory 11, where he mentioned something like when he was younger, his goal was to create like all of his routines that he performed are his own. He will not perform anyone else's routine except his own.
Mhm.
And that became an inspiration for me as well, that I wanted to create all of my own things.
Mhm.
I've since learned that that's not necessarily a good thing because there's
Mm.
so many good tricks out there. There's no need to limit yourself that way. But definitely that was an inspiration. Another inspiration was, Vernon, for example. There's this Vernon story where it said that if a young guy approaches Guy Vernon and it's like, hey, Vernon, professor, here's a trick. What do you think? Guy Vernon could come up with a better version of your trick in 30 seconds. But he would
Mhm.
think, and then immediately with his knowledge, he's able to like, hey, what about this? What do you think? And then he can straight away do it. So that was a goal I wanted to do. I always
Mhm.
wanted to watch someone's trick, be able to instantly work out how to best do it in 30 seconds or less, right?
Mhm.
So there are all these sort of inspirations. Many people who have inspired me over the over the years. People where either I've met or not met before
Mhm.
that have inspired me. Yeah. So those are my biggest inspirations.
So same question, but what's your biggest inspiration outside of it? This could also be for magic, but it could also be for life in general or for you as a
Yeah.
person.
I think when it comes to, I mean, there are cliche answers, right? Like, okay, my biggest inspiration is my family, my friends, and so on. But let's make it a little bit more narrow. Like let's focus a little bit.
Mhm.
Let's say what outside of magic inspires me for my magic. Right? I think that's a bit more okay. I think the biggest inspiration I have are okay. So this might be a cop out, but I think the biggest inspiration I have that has improved my magic is just realizing that. Okay, I've got a good answer. Yes, I'm going to give an. I just realized. Okay, I can now finally pinpoint to this. When I was a teenager in high school, I had a friend from Hong Kong who was in my school. He was a magician as well. Okay, um, and when we went from middle school to high school together, suddenly he quit magic.
Mm.
Okay, so in high school, so I was like, wait, why did you quit? He's like, there's more to life than magic, I can't be bothered. I'm sick of it. Plus, I don't want to just be a magic guy. I want to experience life bigger than this. I quit. And he just stopped magic completely.
Wow.
Got a girlfriend or something like that, and that was it. So I was like, man, like one of my best friends just quit magic, and I felt kind of angry. Like, I thought we were in this together. We were learning magic together and things like that.
Mm.
But I think in a way, he was ahead of the times. Like he was ahead of the curve because I was very much the magic guy. Like I was just doing magic all day long. In school, I was the, hey, can you do a card trick, Harapan? Hey, show me a trick. And that's all I was known for, right? And I became a very one-dimensional figure. And I think that, looking back, impacted my magic and my performance. And I think I've only gotten better as a magician because of me eventually realizing my friend from Hong Kong was right all along, that to be a better magician, you really need the experiences of life beyond magic. So my biggest inspiration outside of magic really is everything that I've experienced outside of magic, whether it is studying for a physics degree up to a master's degree in the UK, whether it is now that I've been the physics teacher for 9 years, whether it's getting married, having kids, and all these experiences, meeting new people and so on, have really in small ways inspired me to be a better magician. The fact that I have having this podcast talk with you, and I think I'm able to engage anyone. If you ask me about, has teaching influenced you? The fact that I'm able to give an answer is because I have had all these experiences. If you went back in time, I would have just been like, I don't know, but do you know anything about the longitudinal shift? Like that's all I knew. I have no other experiences beyond that. But the fact that I'm able to link what I've learned in magic and then be inspired by, my teaching has taught me this. Learning physics has taught me this. This friend showed me this thing. When I read this book, it taught me this. Is because I've actually opened myself up to more things. And it has made me a more all-rounded person. And I think it's made me a more interesting performer and definitely a better and stronger magician.
I think that's a very good answer to that question, actually. Especially like just like you say, like yes, everything outside of magic does make you. It's also the opinion I share, a better magician,
Yep.
a more rounded person.
Yep.
Brings me back to that advice where someone was like, if they like you as a person, they will like your magic.
That's true. If they like you as a person, everything is done.
That's it.
When I was everything is settled. As a teacher, the biggest realization I realized was if you and your student and my students have a rapport, like if they like me, I can get away with like maybe if the lesson's not good and they don't like me, they will complain like, oh, Mr. Ong is horrible. But if I'm nice to them and there's a rapport, if I didn't teach something well, they'll be like, yeah, okay, Mr. Ong was tired. It's all right. It's like no big deal. Like that rapport is so important for them to trust you, to like you, and to actually accept what you're saying. Same thing with performing.
Yeah, but it also makes you more human, right? Like now you're not some godhead that's floating above all of them.
Yeah, totally.
Hey, and as a final question, which sort of ties in with your inspiration inside of magic, what is your favorite trick or some of your favorite tricks to perform for lay people that isn't yours?
That isn't mine. So many of them. I will tell you my go-to trick, if I have a deck of cards, is the perfect stop trick by Ed Marlowe. I don't do it quite the way he does. I have my own touches to it. But the perfect stop trick is it's not new. If I describe a trick to you, you will know what it is. It's like someone pick a card, put it back in. Spectator deals the cards. They stop anywhere. They stop on the 6. Their card is 6 touchdown. That's it. But I can set up the trick pretty quickly on the fly with a call. I do it. Always fools. It's very hands off. Often if someone hands me a deck, like, hey, Harapan, can you just do a trick? Or quickly call it in place, set it up like, oh, okay, cool. And I think just a strong opener. Yeah. So that's one trick I do a lot for lay people. Once that's settled and they're good to go, I do a lot of the trick it cannot be explained for lay people a lot because it's sleight of hand free. It's casual. I have to be present always to talk to them. I never feel like I am going through the motions with them. So that I think there's a real connection when I do the trick cannot be explained.
That's pretty cool, actually, that you mentioned that. Yeah.
The trick cannot be explained is the trick that cannot be explained is the most profound card trick. If you want to talk about inspirations within magic, the trick cannot be explained is a trick that inspires me outside of magic because the lessons it teaches me inspires me outside of magic.
Wow. Okay. All right.
Yeah. Honestly, I'm going to say something now to end off the podcast. Do we have time? We have time.
Yeah, we have time. All the time you want.
Yeah. Okay. I'm going to tell you something that is going to be very controversial. Last year, my class in school, or my graduating class, they were graduating from high school. For one of my last lessons with them, because I'm a form teacher, right? I'm a graduate, so it's like I have to teach them about morals and character. Like this is class. I don't know if you have that in where you're from. Yeah, so we have something like that. We call it like a form teacher time or civics lesson. So we teach about responsibility, or we talk about values and things like that. So for my lessons, I just decided to, you know what? I gathered a class. I said, I'm going to show you a card trick and I'm going to teach you how it's done. Okay. And I can get some of you to try it out. And then I will tell you why I want to show it, what the lessons it teaches me. And so I showed them the trick cannot be explained. And then I told them exactly how it's done. And then I got someone to try it out. It was fun. They were like, wow, does it really work? And then when the guy actually managed to do it, of course, there were some struggles, like, it's new. So he's like, wait, what am I supposed to do? I try, but eventually he got it. The whole crowd went wild. And then I explained the lessons he teaches me, right? Like, if you think about it, in the trick that cannot be explained, there is like a card that represents your goal in life, right? Like you want to get this, you have to make them pick, if the goal is the Queen of Hearts, you want them to pick the Queen of Diamonds or whatever it is, right? The mate or something like that, right? But how you get there is different for everyone. And you like to think that life is like there's this plan you can have. Like, oh, I want to be a doctor. So if I go to this and this and this, then that's where I am. And that's why I take biology in school now. I take chemistry in school right now. But when I look at having taught students for 9 years, I've seen so many students with plans in high school. But when they graduate, it's all out of the window. And they're all like just feeling their way around until they get to the goal they wanted, which is happiness or whatever, like success and contentment in life or whatever it may be.
Mm,
And they always end up in a position that they never even expected themselves to end up. And it's a metaphor. I think this trick is like a metaphor for life. There's so many things you're doing that as long as you keep trying and you feel your way around, suddenly you're there.
mm,
And the cool thing is, as many of you will say, when you get there, when you show this thing, and now your card, you chose the Queen of Diamonds, you could have said a different number. You could have pointed to a different card. But now, Queen of Diamonds and my prediction, Queen of Hearts, everyone besides the magician will think you had a plan, right? That's the cool thing about the thing. They'll go, how is it possible? Like, I could have said a different number. And what if I pointed and cut the deck differently? And wait, I don't understand. And when you look at someone that's successful, it's the analogy that when you look at someone successful, you think they got that because it's all planned out.
Yeah.
But most of the time, they just felt their way around, and then now they're there. And then suddenly you wonder, oh, how did they get there? Like, how is this person like so? How did they find exactly what they wanted to do in their life? Right? Like this person is baking bread every day, and now it's the world's best baker. He said, oh, did he know from young, that he wanted to be a baker all his life? No, he probably was just a kid that did math and did physics or whatever. And then one day, he happened to eat some good bread, right? And then before you know it, boom, he's in France, learning to bake bread, right? And then suddenly now he's winning competitions in Japan for the best croissant or something like that, right? So, but then you look back and it's like, oh, this guy is like destined to be a baker.
Yeah.
Just like, it's like, oh, it's like you are destined to have chosen the matching card. Like, how did you do it? But life cannot be explained. There's no way to. When you look back at it, it looks like it's all planned out. But there's no plan. You must understand that life has no plan. The only rule is that you have to keep trying. Each time, whatever action you take, make it so that you get one step closer to the goal. Don't think too much about like, oh, I'm not there yet. So just keep working. When they point to a card, okay, it's 6 cards away. Let's try. Name a number from 1 to 10. If they say 4, okay, let's try something and just keep bouncing around and trust that it will get there eventually if you keep trying. And that's my inspiration. Within, as a 5th question, what inspires me within magic that inspires me for my life in general? I think it's the trick that can be explained.
Beautiful. Life is the trick that cannot be explained.
It really is. It really is. It's so. If you read Principia, no, I'm plugging my book. If you read Principia, I have an entire chapter dedicated to it, to a trick that cannot be explained. And why am I explaining? I'm actually explaining the profoundness of the trick, which I don't think is even fully captured because I've thought about more things since then. But I literally have essays talking about the analogies I see from the trick cannot be explained to life, science, to a little bit of religion, like things like that I think have inspired me a lot.
That's a perfect ending, Harapan. Thank you for that.
No problem at all.
Thank you so much for being on the podcast. I really appreciated this talk with you. And I hope to speak to you soon.
Thank you so much, everyone.